Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 19 of The Painter and the Pixie.
Ooh, buddy.
Yes, I am your host, Serina Vassar, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Jeremy Vassar.
Hello.
In this episode of The Painter and the Pixie, we have a lot of fun talking about blood sugar regulation, one of my favorite topics.
Yay.
We go over some case studies about someone, Sweet Tooth Sam, and I forgot the other guy's name.
Swifty McFarlane.
Swifty McFarlane, yeah. So we talk about the two of them, the contrast between someone who's got really dysregulated blood sugar and really regulated, happy blood sugar, and then go over some really fun tips about how you guys can help stabilize your blood sugar at home too. And I talk about a lot of the sciencey jargon, right? The things like what's happening in your body when your blood sugar is regulated, dysregulated, and all that jazz.
Yep. I think we covered it pretty thoroughly, and good.
Pretty fun episode.
Good lead up to some of the other more specific episodes I think we'll be doing in the near future.
Yeah.
So laying the groundwork, so to speak.
I think so.
So yeah.
Yeah, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy this episode of The Painter and the Pixie.
Woot woot.
This is only the beginning.
All right, ready?
Ready?
What you're going to hear about today is nothing short of a miracle.
Well, I don't believe it.
Let's find out. Ready, set, go.
Do 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 do. What's up, girly?
Hi, what's up, Jeremy?
How you doing?
Good, I'm great.
So,
How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Hanging out.
You enjoying your coffee there?
I am trying to balance out the massive blood sugar spike that I experienced this morning for our photo shoot later today for actually this episode. We're going to be talking about blood sugar regulation, and one of the thumbnails will involve some donuts. So
They probably have seen.
I got a dozen of them, and from Yum Yum, because if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right.
Do it from Yum Yum.
And had two of them this morning, and I will say I cannot handle sugar the way I used to could.
Good for you.
It's just so now I'm trying to balance out the immediate spike of blood sugar with some MCT oil in my coffee, kind of like even that burn out.
Yep, that's nice.
So.
Very nice lead up to our conversation today.
So we could talk about maybe what I'm experiencing currently.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you share with us, Jeremy?
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like back in the day, we used to just smash. Now, I will say I never felt great after eating Yum Yum donuts, aside from like the instant mouth pleasure, which is like, something to be said for sitting down
up
and
all of your pleasure centers of the brain
and enjoying your, enjoying an indulgence here and there. But man, like I eat those now and I just feel it immediately. And actually, like my joints hurt. Like I can feel them like inflaming.
That's
like,
a thing.
like I'm sorry, guys. So. But anyway, so I'm like, I should probably I feel the need now to drink like 3 gallons of water and then go in a sauna and sweat it out, or go to yoga or something. Yeah,
I'll give you some other options you can do to help yourself out.
Yeah. So we are going to be chatting much like we did with the episode on digestion. We're going to be covering some blood sugar type stuff, and it's also, I would say, in the gambit of your specialities from what you treat.
It is.
In your day-to-day.
Don't treat, Jeremy.
Treat, whatever. Help with?
Yeah.
What's the phrase that I should be using? Support people.
Yeah. I'm not licensed, so I can't treat or diagnose anybody. I am a certified nutritional therapist, which means that I can support people to help them have better function.
Right. Which
legalities.
looks an awful lot like she fixes the problem.
Yeah. I do a lot of times. It's just not from a treatment perspective. You just help the body to be able to do what it's designed to do on its own, kind of clear the way. I'm a path clearer. That's what I do.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Help the body to do what it's designed to do already.
Yeah, I can get on that team.
Some roadblocks in the way, push them aside.
There you go. There you go. So, blood sugar.
Yeah.
Ready, go.
Yeah. So I wanted to share about blood sugar regulation with everybody today and kind of walk through a case study and see what can we do to help ourselves, because blood sugar, I think, is a very misunderstood topic. A lot of times we hear blood sugar and we just think of diabetes, or we think of insulin, or we think of being on diabetic medications or all of these complications. But we don't really think that even if we're perfectly healthy, we still have to consider blood sugar regulation. Blood sugar is basically sugar, glucose, a unit of energy that the body uses for energy production, right? Pretty simple. We have two primary sources of energy for the body, which one comes from sugar, glucose, and the other comes from fat, which is called ketones. So some of you who are listening might be familiar with this really, really popular diet that's around right now called keto, ketogenic diet. And that has to do with helping the body to convert its primary energy source from glucose to ketones.
We'll be doing an episode on that later.
So we'll be doing an episode on that later. But for today, I just want to kind of open the topic of blood sugar regulation and why that's important. So I get a lot of clients who come to see me with all kinds of blood sugar related symptoms that they don't realize is related to blood sugar, because if they go to the doctor and they get a blood panel, their sugar looks normal. So no one even considers it. Okay. But one of the things that I say to a lot of my clients is that your blood sugar number might be perfect. It might look 100% fine, and no issues.
And what's a perfect quote unquote blood sugar number?
Generally, you're looking for your blood sugar to rest anywhere between 80 and 100, and that's milliliters per liter, per deciliter. I forget what the exact term is. I know the little marker, but I forget what it says.
So 80 to 100
80 to 100, yes. Okay. So you have a range.
And then what's like a type 2 diabetes range?
Anywhere above 100 on a regular basis. Okay. We usually see it elevated fairly high, 200, even up into the 300s. And then if you're resting above 100 for, a consistent period of time, over like maybe 130, 140, then doctors will consider you pre-diabetic or diabetic. Okay. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're diabetic.
Gotcha. So is that measurement just like the amount of sugar in your blood?
It's just the amount of sugar in your blood at any given time.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. So I'm probably sitting over 100 right now.
You very likely are sitting over 100 right now. Now, I will qualify that and say that's a fasting sugar that we're looking at to be between 80 and 100. Okay. When anybody eats food, when you are very healthy, your blood sugar will rise over 100. It's supposed to. When you're fasting, we want it to rest between 80 and 100.
Okay. So, and then there's a lower limit too for can you have too low of blood sugar as well?
Yeah, it's called hypoglycemia.
And then when would you be feeling not awesome if it dipped below?
So some people are more sensitive and they feel a hypoglycemic response somewhere around the 70s. Okay. Usually it's around the 60s where you really you start maybe feeling shaky or a little bit dizzy, or some people, there's a term called hangry.
Yeah. I know some people.
Yes. Yeah. And that's usually when you dip down below that 70-ish, definitely in the 60s mark.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, and if you drop below, like into the 50s or something lower than that, you can have you can pass out.
I was going to say, because then you're just going to pass out. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can have a lot of other negative symptoms, but I don't want to get into all those details.
Gotcha. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. But those are some good questions. We're looking for our blood sugar to rest within range, and range is between 80 and 100. When your blood sugar is in that range and you have your blood test done by your doctor, or you have, a CBC, whatever your typical blood panel is when you go for your physical each year, no one's really going to say anything to you if your blood sugar is within that range. However, the downfall that I see about that process, which I work with my clients all the time, is that seeing your number within range does not give you any indication whatsoever about how hard your body is working to keep you in that range.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If your body is very easily, no stress, very, very simple, no, easygoing, whatever, to keep you in range, beautiful, perfect. That is what we want. It should be no stress. Should be very clean, smooth interaction within the body.
And it's bringing you back into equilibrium relatively quickly.
Into equilibrium easily.
Not with a massive amount of stress.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Correct. But that's why I said those blood sugar numbers don't give you a reference for that. That's where we look at symptoms. That's where I go and say, well, what are you experiencing? Because your blood sugar numbers might be perfectly within range, but you could feel really tired between meals, or after you have a meal, you get very sleepy, regardless of what the meal is. You might feel like you've got the shakes before you get to your meal. You have to eat every 2 hours, and there's a really big trend. There had been a really big trend. I'm not sure how popular it is currently to eat every 2 hours, eat 5 or 6 or 7 small meals.
That was huge
the day.
In the workout community for a long time. It was like constantly eating every 2 hours, which that's more prevalent in the bodybuilding world. But it's like it did a lot of people wrong in the guys that weren't trying to be like professional bodybuilders.
Yeah.
Because those dudes actually need to eat like a lot.
Well, they need to keep their calories up.
Yeah.
But it's not, that's a little bit of a different process, trying to keep calories in so you can keep building muscle, as opposed to keeping your blood sugar stable.
Yeah, I just saw it being something where people were taking cues from bodybuilders and trying to apply it to people that, you know,
not bodybuilders.
didn't weigh like 270 pounds of muscle. So it's like that. It's not it wasn't a good transfer over.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
and I can see where the trend came from, because if you're having a blood sugar crash or an episode of hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, eat food, bring your blood sugar back up. That sounds completely logical. It makes perfect sense. However, for me and my philosophy and the way that I operate with nutrition and body function and these things, optimal health says you shouldn't need to do that. Your body has the tools and the resources to keep your blood sugar and your metabolism stable. And we'll talk about the connection between the two in a moment, without eating food constantly. When you sleep, you don't eat for 8 hours. You know, if you're sleeping for 8 hours.
Right.
And your body should be able to maintain a good blood sugar level and keep you going without an issue. If you have to eat you're not waking up every 2 hours in the night to keep your blood sugar stable. So what's going on here?
Yeah.
Right.
And some bodybuilders were actually getting up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and that's
throw it out.
that's an
Yeah.
extreme scenario that is not at all applicable to the general population.
Correct.
So that's where I don't even listen to those guys unless you're in that world and that's your sport, right?
Yeah. If you're trying to be Mr. Universe, then, you know, take a gander. But if
Yeah,
not,
you're going to have to do something very different. Today, I just want to talk about general blood sugar regulation. What does it mean? What does it look like when it's dysregulated? How can we help you to become regulated and kind of put that ease back into the blood sugar regulation process?
Gotcha.
Okay. So we're going to talk about a little case study here. I'm going to present a person to you, and then we'll talk through his day, and then come back around and look at where the faults are and how we can repair.
Ooh, can I name him?
Sure, but it has to have, okay.
Well, I'll pitch you a name. If it doesn't work, then Swifty McFarlane.
Swifty McFarlane. You could do that. I was thinking more like Sweet Tooth Sam.
Sweet Tooth Sam?
Yeah.
All right. That's fine.
Sweet Tooth Swifty McFarlane.
You can do Sweet Tooth Sam. That's
Okay,
fine.
so we'll talk about Sweet Tooth Sam. So this is kind of a conglomeration. This isn't any one real person. This is just a made-up case study with very common symptoms that a lot of my clients experience. And probably a lot of people listening experience too, and they don't even realize it's a blood sugar issue.
Gotcha.
So Sweet Tooth Sam wakes up. He slept, went to bed, maybe like midnight the night before, got up with his alarm at 6:15, get ready to go to work. He's a little bit tired. He says, okay, alarm goes off, snooze. Alarm goes off, snooze. Gets out of bed around 6:45. Now he's rushing. Okay, I don't know. I don't have time. I take a quick shower, go over, get my little Keurig coffee cup, add my cream and sugar to it, but it's sugar in the raw, so it's a little bit better, right? And he's got his favorite coconut cream, vanilla creamer to go in the coffee. And he's like, all right, I don't have time to make food. I just have to get out the door by 7:05. So I know I can make it with traffic to get to work on time.
Mm-hmm.
So what does he do? He goes and he grabs his Eggo waffles or Pop-Tarts, just a little packet. Oh, or a Nature Valley granola bar. Those are some real popular ones. Because it says nature and it's green.
Yeah.
Grabs that, eats that in the car on the way to work. And by the time he gets to work, he's like, okay, driving in the car. He gets there at 7:30. Ready to get started with his day, goes to the break room, makes his second or third cup of coffee, depending on whether or not he had two before he left the house, adds his cream and sugar, sits down for his work, and he's like, okay. An hour later, he's super tired. Oh man, working, can't focus. Okay, time to take a break. Gets up, walks back over to the break room, maybe grabs a little bit of candy that's sitting in the sugar bowl there, a little baby Snickers bar, or that's
maybe a Milky Way.
That's a bit healthy, right? Snickers bar, because there's some peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's better than just the plain sugar, the hard candies.
Yeah.
So he grabs, one Snickers, little baby Snickers bar, grabs 2 or 3 of them for later, just to make sure he's got enough to keep himself stable.
And Snickers had a whole marketing campaign around hypoglycemia.
I know. We'll talk about that.
They would get hangry, and then they're like, grab a Snickers.
Yep, that's exactly it. I'll come back to that too, for sure. So he grabs his little bars, and he's snacking on that, and sits down, goes back to work. It's about 10:30 now in the day, and he's ready for some more food. He ate his granola bar on the drive to work, so he goes and he grabs his bagel. They always have bagels available in the little snack shop.
Yep.
And his low-fat cream cheese. so that he can be healthier, right? He thinks he's being really healthy.
Yeah.
And his whole wheat bagel, he comes down, sits down, eats that while he's at his desk. So if you listened to our episode last time, he's in go mode the entire time, not really in rest and digest mode.
Yep.
And then feels really tired, and he's like, oh man, this coffee, when is this coffee going to kick in? And he just sort of trying to focus, a little bit of brain fog. He's a little bit slow getting his project done, but he's working on it, plugging away, getting some stuff accomplished. Lunchtime rolls around. Whew, I'm so glad. It's time to go get my hoagie. He loves his hoagie. It's just a Wawa hoagie, right? Or whatever from the snack bar. And it's got his provolone cheese and his low-fat, lean turkey meat. And he picks off the tomatoes. He doesn't like the tomatoes. So scrapes off some of that Miracle Whip because, he's just trying to not worry about his fats too much.
Yeah.
And goes back, eats that for the rest of his day. And he's working. But now that's, 12:30. Lunch is done. Goes back to his desk. And he leaves from work at around 4:30. There's no more lunch breaks, right? There's no more coffee breaks. You're in the middle of the afternoon. So what happens is around like 2:30, he just crashes, totally bonks, starts getting shaky, okay, I can't focus. I gotta move around, gotta talk to someone. His neighbor pops his head into the cubicle and says, hey, I got something. You want this? And he tosses over a little Cliff Bar, right? Protein bar. Get yourself some good protein in there.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, thanks, man. I really needed it. I feel my blood sugar is crashing. So he eats his Cliff Bar and makes it home. He gets home from work and sits down, and he just is, long day. I am tired. I just don't feel very clear. Don't feel very foggy. I feel pretty foggy, and I am just ready for the next meal. So he decides he's going to make a bit of a healthier choice. So he goes and gets his lean cuisine out of the freezer.
Okay.
Right? And it's got some pasta. It's got, a little square of lasagna. And he's got a side of frozen green beans and his Jell-O for dessert, right? I don't know what they have in those things, so I don't know if that's accurate.
That all sounds awful, but yeah.
But he likes it. It's whatever. It's easy. He doesn't have to cook it.
Yep.
It's real simple. He gets to sit down and watch his favorite TV show. Maybe he drinks a beer or something while he's watching, or has some snacks like potato chips or popcorn or Pirate Booty. That's another one that's really popular. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
It's like trail mix, but with like frosted Chex, sort of.
Oh, isn't that, I thought...
And puffed marshmallowy things.
Oh, I was called, what was the one that, it's Puppy Chow?
Yeah, it's not Puppy Chow, not that.
Puppy Chow's awesome.
Yeah, that's
like
Chex.
Chex Mix.
Mixed with like melted chocolate and peanut butter and covered in powdered
It's
sugar.
so good.
Yeah.
That stuff's delicious. Oh, yeah. So good, man. Yeah, that was a...
Yeah. So he's got his snacks. He sits down. He's watching his TV shows, whatever he wants to do. He feels so tired. Man, I did a lot today. I accomplished a lot. Got a lot of work done. Finished that project on time. And I really deserve this dessert. This is great. I feel really good about this. So he crawls into bed, stays up, hangs out, does his thing. Goes to bed at 12 o'clock and is exhausted. Falls asleep right away. About 3:30 in the morning, bing, he's wide awake. Sits up in bed. I guess better go to the bathroom. I think I gotta pee. And goes to the restroom, comes back, lays down, closes his eyes. I'm not falling asleep. Might as well just turn my phone on and like scroll on Pinterest or something. Or he's probably on Instagram.
This kid's not scrolling through Pinterest.
Hey, some guys do.
Yeah. Sam seems more like an Instagram fella.
Yeah, so he's on Instagram or Facebook. He's probably just trekking out Facebook, see what he missed through the day, working.
Facebook, the Walmart of social media.
Yeah, so he's scrolling, he's looking, he's sitting on his phone, and finally, 3:30, 4 o'clock comes around, and he's like, all right, I better try to go back to bed. Shuts his phone off, puts it under his pillow, goes to sleep. Alarm blares at 6:15 in the morning, and I gotta get up for work. Snooze again.
Yep.
Right. So
on and on the beat goes. Rinse,
wash, and repeat.
Yep.
Wash, rinse, repeat. Yep. And that's Sweet Tooth Sam's day.
Yep.
A lot of what has happened for him is he's just riding the blood sugar roller coaster. That's all that's happening. He's not feeling clear. He's not feeling confident. He's not feeling well balanced throughout the day. He's just waiting for his next fix.
Yeah, it's whack-a-mole with blood sugar.
Yeah, whack-a-mole, right on the blood sugar roller coaster. So what Sam does not know is that he could make some very small adjustments to his daily life and routine that could make a huge difference for his blood sugar regulation. Right? Mm-hmm. So what is blood sugar regulation? We had this wonderful picture of Sam, but let's talk about what blood sugar regulation is. Regulating your blood sugar basically means making sure that your energy is stable throughout the day. And when we talk about stabilizing energy and producing energy, that's metabolism. So basically, when I'm talking to my clients or anybody really about blood sugar regulation, what we're really talking about is helping to adjust your metabolism based upon your body's true need, not just a perceived need. So what is supposed to happen? Let's talk about what's supposed to happen when you have happy, healthy, wonderful, well-balanced blood sugar. You should be able to. So now, okay, give me another person's name. We'll talk through another person who has really good blood sugar.
Okay. I don't know if you wanted to fix Sweet Tooth Sam.
We'll compare the two and then we'll fix Sweet Tooth Sam.
Okay. Well, Swifty McFarland's my first.
Okay, so Swifty McFarland.
Yeah.
That's Sweet Tooth Sam and Swifty McFarland. So Swifty McFarland gets up. He sleeps really well through the night, solidly, does not wake up. Wakes up feeling well rested. He wakes up before his alarm. His backup alarm is set for 6:15 just in case he doesn't wake up in time, but he's up at 5:50, ready to go, ready to start the day. He works next door to Sam. How about that?
Yeah.
In the same office.
Swifty and Sam. I like it.
Swifty and Sam. So Swifty wakes up. Nice stretch. I feel so rested and ready to take on the day. He gets up. He has plenty of time to take a shower, to sit down and have a nice breakfast. He makes himself some eggs, some, 2 fried eggs, some bacon, a little quarter of a sliver of an avocado, maybe a little tiny pile of sauerkraut or fermented veggies.
Mm-hmm.
Sits down with his wonderful 1 cup of fresh brewed French press coffee.
Yeah.
Or it could come from a Keurig, whatever.
Yeah.
With a little splash of heavy cream, grass-fed, organic heavy cream in it. He enjoys his meal. By the time he's done, he's ready to go, looks at his watch, ready to go, drives to work. No problems. He feels smooth energy, consistent, planning his day. Here's my project I've got done. It's already almost done in his mind. He knows what steps he needs to take. He's very clear-headed and ready to go. He gets to the office. He sits down. He does his work. He's just plugging along. Swifty. He does his job really well, speedily. No energy crashes. And by the time, before he knows it, it's 12:30. It's time to break for lunch. How did that even happen? I was so into my job. I just got all my work done. It was great and brilliant. He goes for lunch. And you know what he has?
Am I supposed to know?
You can guess if you want. Yeah.
What would Swifty have? I'm going to say, I'd like to know his athletic profile, but that's too far in.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, he could do a loaded baked potato that he had made previously with
Sure.
a bunch of really good raw cheese and good sour cream and bacon and or he could just do. I'm just gonna make Swifty into myself. He could start hitting his smoothie that he's made previously that morning.
Okay, that's a great option.
Which is like a 2,000 calorie smoothie with awesome greens and an avocado and tomato, and he's got some collagen peptides in there for a little protein and some coconut milk in there because it's more fats, and he's rocking that out.
Okay.
A little bit of blueberries, strawberries, maybe half frozen banana in there, just to even that out.
Yeah, sounds good. So he could have that kind of lunch and he's just ready to go. He sits down, maybe outside. Maybe it's been sunny and beautiful, just like it has been here recently. And he just enjoys the day and he drinks his smoothie, mixes saliva in with the sips so that he can do really good digestion. And done with his smoothie or almost done with his smoothie. Maybe he doesn't even finish his whole smoothie at that point in time because he's full and satisfied and feels very clear, not shaky, not hangry, not worried about the day. Goes back, finishes his job. Before you know it, it's quitting time. He drives home and gets home, maybe finishes the last bit of his smoothie before he goes to work out, has a really productive workout session, comes back. Getting yoked. Comes back home and he makes himself a really nice dinner and he's going to enjoy that dinner and maybe spend some time with friends, or maybe he's got a girlfriend or a wife or something at home. So
Swifty is good with the ladies.
Yeah. Okay. So he sits down and he makes himself some roasted carrots and asparagus, maybe some bell peppers in there. He just chops that up, drizzles it in olive oil, tosses it in the oven, and
a big ass ribeye steak.
Okay. So while it's in the oven, he starts searing his big ass ribeye steak. Good. Throws that on the grill
from a local farm.
4 minutes, turn it. 4 minutes, turn it. 4 minutes, turn it. And then
maybe he's got a sous vide and he's really into it. He's gonna sear it with a blowtorch.
We're trying to be realistic here.
Hey, whatever. Swifty's a stud. He knows
Cooks
what's
it up quick on the grill.
saying.
Has maybe a little side salad or some of his leftover baked potato. Maybe he had a baked potato and he does half a baked potato, cuts that down the center, adds a bunch of butter and sea salt to that mix. He eats it. He chews it really well. He super enjoys it. He eats maybe 3/4 of the meal. Feels super satisfied. He doesn't want to feel bloated and gross. So he's like, I'm going to save the rest of this for my lunch tomorrow or maybe breakfast. Just throw that in a cast iron skillet or a saucepan a frying pan and heat that up in the morning. Great. Perfect. Awesome for a breakfast meal.
Add some eggs. Good to go.
Yep. Add some eggs. Good to go. So he stores that away in his fridge and he gets ready for his evening. He does whatever his evening routine is. Ready for bed, into bed, maybe 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Lights out, goes to sleep, falls asleep easily, stays asleep really, really nicely throughout the night, and wakes up ready to go for the next day. Take on the day.
There you go. Yeah.
So 2 very different people here.
Yeah.
Right? And what a lot of people don't realize is the food makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Makes a huge, huge difference. The way that you eat the food makes a difference too, but that's another podcast. So go back and listen to that one too.
Check that one out. Was it episode 18?
Yeah, episode 18. So for Sweet Tooth Sam, what can we do to help him?
Am I answering this?
You don't have to.
Okay.
Rhetorical. I'll come around to that. What can we do to help him? We can help him by showing him how to help balance his blood sugar. So let's talk about how blood sugar regulation works within the body when it's working appropriately. And you can answer, I'll ask you some questions. You can answer them along the way. So what's supposed to happen when you have good, even, steady blood sugar regulation, not just blood sugar itself. So the process of keeping the blood sugar within range is nice and steady and smooth and easy, is that you have your 3 main organs of blood sugar regulation: your pancreas, your liver, and your adrenals. Now the 2 main characters here are your pancreas and your liver. When your blood sugar is regulating beautifully, easily, these 2 organs are kind of having a nice little dance back and forth, a nice little conversation. I call it smooth, easy, rolling hills of blood sugar. So we'll talk about that. Now, when we have a stress response and the blood sugar regulation process is taking more of a toll on the body, it's more of an emergency mode. If you have a hypoglycemic or high blood sugar episode, your adrenals will get involved. So I like to think about this. How I remember is I rearrange those letters. Instead of PLA, I change it to PAL, and you've got your pals.
Okay.
Right? So blood sugar regulation is all about keeping your pals happy. When your pals are happy, you are happy.
I like it. I like it.
So your pancreas, we hear pancreas, we think insulin, we think diabetes, but your pancreas does a little bit more than that. So your pancreas creates a hormone that ushers your glucose, your sugar, from the bloodstream into your cells. When we eat food and absorb our food, it gets put into the bloodstream as energy or nutrients. So energy would be glucose or fats. Typical blood sugar regulation. You have sugar entering the bloodstream, and then you have the pancreas, which sends insulin to say, okay, let's bring you into the cells, actually take you from the bloodstream and put you into the process. When your blood sugar goes up above 100, pancreas is signaled and says, okay, let's secrete some insulin, bring that blood sugar back where it's supposed to go. Once you fill up all of your stores inside the cells for energy production, your body is signaled to put the excess off in storage, which you store in the liver as glycogen. So that's kind of the stored form of glucose. That's like packing glucose away into a little suitcase and putting the suitcase away for later.
Okay.
You also store some of that extra glucose as glycogen in your muscle tissue. What happens then is once you're between meals and you haven't eaten anything for a little while, your blood sugar might dip right below that 80 mark. You're getting down into the 70s or something. Your pancreas says, uh-oh, we're a little bit low. Hey, liver, can you just toss some of that stored glucose back into the bloodstream so that we can maintain balance? Liver goes, yeah, sure, no problem. Here you go. Unpacks that suitcase, puts it in the bloodstream, and blood sugar rises back up within range, no problem. Okay. That's what's supposed to happen. You have this repetition over time, the same little thing. Blood sugar goes up in cells, store it away, too low, take it back out of storage, put it back into the bloodstream. Happy little rolling hills of blood sugar.
Gotcha.
When we have a blood sugar event, whether it's too high or too low. So say we had a breakfast kind of like Sweet Tooth Sam with his Pop-Tarts, his Eggo waffles, his sugary cream stuff, and his coffee.
Nature Valley bar.
Nature Valley bar, yes, thank you. The blood sugar will go way high, way above out of range. Now, like I mentioned, we should be going out of range when we eat a meal. That's totally normal to have blood sugar rise above 100. If it goes really far above 100, or stays above 100 for longer than an hour or two, then we know we've got a problem and your body will have an emergency stress response. That's when your adrenals come into the picture. So your adrenals are supposed to be your emergency responders. Now let's take a step back. If those listening don't really know what your adrenals are, they are these wonderful little walnut-sized glands that sit on top of your kidneys. Your kidneys are called your renal glands. Your adrenal means on top of kidney, or your adrenal glands.
Okay.
Those glands are responsible to keep us all alive. They create stress hormones, which wake us up in the morning, keep us going. They increase stress hormone during the morning, which it's a positive stress. And then as we get to the end of the day, they reduce so that you can sleep at night, right? That's regulating your circadian rhythm. Our adrenals are also, like I said, our emergency responders. So if our blood sugar goes way high, it's like calling in the fire department. Okay?
Gotta hose that stuff down.
Gotta hose that stuff down.
Insulin.
Quickly. You've got to bring it down very, very quickly because we don't know, is the house going to burn down? It's not just a little waste paper basket fire. It's like the kitchen's on fire.
Right.
Right? Or more of the house. And we need to just I don't care what damage we're doing. We just have to stop the fire.
Yeah. Propane tank exploded.
Propane tank
I
exploded.
gotta put this thing out.
Yep. So when that happens, your adrenals secrete all kinds of stress hormones like, I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but like cortisol and epinephrine, which is also known as adrenaline, to bring that sugar down quickly. Now, what happens is you fill up all of the storage containers in your liver for glycogen. You fill up all the storage containers for glycogen in your muscles. You jam as much sugar into your cells for energy production as you possibly can, but there's still more left over. What do? We don't have any other place to store it away, so your adrenal stress hormones will actually convert the extra glucose into fat.
Okay. So
Into
once
fat
you
cells.
once you fill up all your storage areas,
There's no other place to put it.
which would be your muscles, liver, and then does some because the brain uses glycogen as well. Is
It does, but that's not for storage. That's just energy
It's just
use.
energy. It's okay. I gotcha.
Yeah.
So there's no real like holding tank in the brain. 'Cause
No.
There's no. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question. The major holding tank is the liver, and then you also have some in the muscle tissue.
Right. Right.
So when you have this emergency response, blood sugar will drop rapidly, right? Get it out of the bloodstream. If we have too much sugar, we're going to get into a coma, right? Your body, and every moment is trying to keep you alive.
Right.
It does not have a picture of the future. It doesn't say, wow, if we have the stress response now, we might really have a problem down the road. Like, just right now, no coma right now.
Yeah.
No passing out right now.
Because it's trying to keep you in that range.
Yes,
Of
it's
like
trying
80
to
to
keep you-
100. Right. Okay.
But the problem is sometimes it's like too hard, too fast. You use that fire hose from the fire department and you just blast through everything and you kind of cause a mess. But hey, the fire's out,
Right.
right? So you shuck all that extra glucose away, you store as much as you can, and whatever you can't store in the proper storage bins gets converted into fat cells, adipose tissue. So then what happens is you've got a blood sugar crash. So if you've ever experienced that, had a big meal, and then for maybe in a half an hour or so, you feel great, and then all of a sudden, sleepy.
Yeah. I'm sure
Tired.
that's coming for me shortly.
Oh, I just can't. I just need to take a nap, right? Just got to go home, take a nap, recuperate. What happens there is your blood sugar has now dipped. You've gone below your 80 marker. So your body is in like sluggish mode. I don't have enough energy to do what I need to do. So then what happens is you've got another emergency response from your adrenals. They come in and say, oh man, too low. We
Yeah.
went too low. We've got to bring this shit back up now. Stat, quickly.
Yep.
So what happens is you quickly dump any glucose you've had in storage. It's like instead of nicely unpacking that suitcase and putting the sugar from the suitcase into the bloodstream, just dump that out the window, right?
Okay.
Shake it out quickly. It's pretty violent. Quickly. If you didn't have enough glycogen in storage, if that glycogen that you did have stored was just not enough for the body to trigger your satiation response to stop that blood sugar reaction, your adrenals are going to say, oh man, we need to get blood sugar in here quickly. Hey, that fat, that adipose tissue, or any of this fats that we've eaten, that's too difficult for me to worry about breaking down and converting into energy. Let's just create some new glucose for ourselves. It's called gluconeogenesis, the creation of new glucose from our muscle. We start breaking down muscle tissue.
And then you would do that before you would break down the
Yep.
sugar that you packed away in the fat.
Correct.
Okay.
Because now it's converted into fat. It's no longer sugar. So the body says, oh, that's really difficult to break down. I'm going to go with this muscle tissue and break that down. That's much easier.
So then what you're left with after this process is depleted glycogen stores in your liver and in your muscle tissue.
Yep.
You have fat that's no longer accessible source of energy for most folks. And then, so you're fatter and more depleted than when you started.
Yeah, and you begin eating your muscle tissue.
And you eat your muscle tissue. So yeah, all things we generally don't want.
Yep, and that is a big stress on the body too. So you're going to have energy crash. You're not going to feel good.
Yeah.
Now let's go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, when is insulin coming into play?
Insulin comes into play with glucose in the bloodstream.
Okay.
We talked about that. If your blood sugar is really high, I'll answer this more fully for you. So when your blood sugar goes high, your pancreas is pumping out tons and tons of insulin. Get it into the cells. Insulin is the carrier hormone that takes glucose, sugar from the bloodstream and shoves it into the cells.
Okay.
Right? It's kind of the key that opens the gate that allows glucose to pass into the cells.
Okay.
So when you've got a high sugar, your insulin will rise and cause a huge surge to try to shove as much glucose into the cells as possible. But you often end up with something like a traffic jam. You can only put so much glucose into your cell at one moment in time until you burn it and use it for energy, right?
Gotcha.
So at the same time, you'll have insulin. Try to get more in the cells. Try to get more in the cells. It's almost like screaming at your cells. Just take more glucose in, please.
Yeah.
We can't handle it out here. It's too stressful. Eventually, over time, you become something called insulin resistant, where insulin has been screaming at your cells for so long. Your cells are just putting their fingers in their ears. La, 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 la. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Because there's too much. It's just too stressful. And that's where your adrenals will come in and say, okay, well, we're going to take it to the next level and start shucking this stuff over here into fat cells, turning it over into fat for storage, because obviously this normal process is not working.
Gotcha. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what do we do about all this? When we constantly ride that blood sugar roller coaster, we're just basically riding the adrenal waves, you know?
Right.
Stress hormones all up and down.
Which is also very hard to, it's very mentally disruptive to be doing that. It's hard to focus. It's hard to get things done if you're constantly, trying to put out this fire, whether it be too hot or completely non-existent. So it's just, it's very dysregulating.
It's very dysregulating. And that's where I like what you just said. It kind of hinders your brain capacity, your mental function. And that's a huge factor for a lot of people. We don't realize that feeling brain fog and feeling tired after meals, or even feeling cranky, that hangry sensation happens when you have that rise in adrenal stress hormone. If you've got all these stress hormones coursing through your veins, you're going to feel the effects of that.
Right.
And you become hangry. That's where so many people just think it's normal. They just think, okay, I've got a low blood sugar. I need to get more blood sugar. They don't realize it's a low blood sugar and a rise in stress hormone.
Yeah. And when you get into those spaces, or at least when I do, my brain automatically targets the lowest hanging fruit of anything. It's just like, I'm like, what's the easiest food I can get? What movies can I shove in my face?
Sugar.
Like, just I'm going to sit and be a potato for a while and just eat the easiest, crappiest food I can find.
Yep. Very common. Very common. Because what your body's trying to do, I mean, you crave those things. A lot of people just crave the sweets or starchy things like bread or pasta or potatoes, because they know subconsciously, their brain knows, if I eat this sweet or starchy food, my blood sugar is going to go up real quick. I know it's really low right now and it's going to go up really quickly. We don't consciously think about that, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time. Once we're aware of it, we can think about it more. But
Right.
Sweet Tooth Sam's not thinking about that. He's just like, okay, give me these Snickers. You're not yourself when you're hungry. Grab a Snickers, right?
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you don't know how you could feel elsewise, then it's hard to know that you can kind of manually override that system and be like, oh, if I do a few things differently, I can feel way better.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't even know something is wrong. Wrong is a bit harsh, but that something is dysregulated and out of balance because they felt this way their whole lives. It's just normal.
And that there's a better alternative.
And they don't realize that there's a better alternative, because everybody that Sam knows is eating these Nature Valley bars for breakfast. It's healthy. It's a lot of fiber, whatever. That's what they think, but they don't realize that that's actually perpetuating the problem because it's so normalized.
Yep.
Right? Now, whenever I get some of these blood sugar clients coming into my office, and I specialize in digestion and blood sugar regulation, so I get a lot of them, I say, what would it mean to you if you could go through the day and feel good, feel stable? You could go from breakfast, you get really involved in your work, your music, your whatever you're doing, and you realize, oh my gosh, it's dinner time. I feel great. I missed lunch? I haven't missed lunch in my life. How did this happen? Because blood sugar is super solid, balanced. This dance between the pancreas and the liver is doing its job beautifully. And you're able to use other more long-burning fuels for energy production rather than just glucose, aka fats and ketones, right?
Healthy fats.
Healthy fats. The big trick is you can't just increase your healthy fats to stabilize blood sugar. You have to make sure your body knows how to digest, absorb, and utilize those fats to begin with. And that can be a little bit of a tricky process. So let's talk about how Sam can help his blood sugar to become regulated. First, what does it look like to have regulated blood sugar? I'm going to give you my most favorite analogy of all time. Building a fire.
Yeah. I thought that, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be in this episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you, Jeremy, have you ever built a fire before?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've done this on the show.
I know we have, but I'm reiterating.
Yes, I have built a fire many a time.
Talk me through the process of building a fire.
Well, it depends on how you want to do it. If you want to have some fun the way my grandfather did, you use a hell of a lot of gasoline.
Okay.
And you put so much on that it launches a fireball out of the burning barrel roughly twice as high as your house, and it rattles all the windows.
Wow. Yeah, that's one way to do it.
And also sets the neighbor's bushes on fire.
Well, maybe let's not set the neighbor's bushes on fire, but I hear you. I mean, it worked, right?
Yeah.
How long did that fire last?
Well, he did it a lot, so.
That one particular fire, how long did it burn for?
Quite a while.
I guess you had a lot more in there.
A lot of stuff caught on fire.
A lot of stuff inside that
yeah, and then he kept putting gasoline on it.
Okay, so you kept adding gasoline to it.
Yeah.
I got you, to keep it going.
But if we are trying to have a pleasant evening where we're having a more
little fire pit outside.
Fire pit situation, how you're asking how I make the fire, right? Okay.
Yep.
So I stack the wood, which are like nice bigger logs.
Yep.
That are chopped and seasoned and all of that jazz.
Ready to go.
And then I also will put, if there's any dead leaves, I'll stack that in there and just kind of fill in the gaps, but also some kindling, which are some smaller sticks and things that I know are going to catch quickly. And then sometimes I will use, if I have a starter log, I will use that because that burns quickly and then stays lit for a decent amount of time too. But if I don't have one, I will just use...
Yeah, talk through without the starter log.
I will use kindling, which are your smaller sticks and twigs and leaves and stuff that I know will catch quickly. And then I will keep stoking the fire with the kindling. So once the fire gets hot enough, it catches on to the bigger logs. And then the bigger logs will take over the heavy work of the fire.
Yeah.
And then once that fire gets hot enough, then you can just add your steady, nice big logs to maintain a nice even burn throughout the evening.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
So that's how I do it.
Right. Yeah, and that sounds more sustainable to me than dumping gasoline on this burning barrel that just explodes for two stories high.
Yeah, it's way less fun.
Yeah, well,
but
gotta keep it exciting
it's less exciting anyway.
Yeah.
But
yes, and roller coasters are very exciting, much more exciting than rolling hills.
It's true. It's true.
Nice,
a gentle slope.
Steady rolling hills, gentle slope. So building a fire like that is exactly like balancing your blood sugar, like almost exactly like balancing your blood sugar. Your kindling, you start out with kindling, something that's quick burning, that is meant not to sustain the fire, but to catch the next size of kindling sticks, wood on fire before you can catch the logs. The goal of building a fire that's sustainable is to keep those logs going, so only once in a while you have to throw on an energy source that's going to keep it burning, nice and hot and steady, right? So our carbohydrates, foods that we eat that are made of carbohydrate, are our kindling. Very quick burning. The only job really is to catch the next bit on fire, right? You're not trying to sustain the whole fire out of twigs and sticks and leaves.
Right.
Now, what's a carbohydrate? A carbohydrate is any plant-based material. Fruit, vegetable, grain-based product, and sweetener. All biochemically a carbohydrate. So all of those things burn very quickly. When we think of carbs, we think of bread and pasta and candies and cakes and cookies and pretzels and sweets.
Yep.
But yes, those are carbohydrates. Those are refined carbohydrates.
Vegetables.
But vegetables and fruit are also carbohydrates. Now, there is a distinction between sweet starchy carbohydrates and non-starchy carbohydrates. The sweet starchy carbohydrates, like those candies, cakes, pretzels, sweets, potato chips, those types of things, are very, very quick burning. Those are just like your gasoline, right? That cause a big explosion and a lot of burst of heat, but not a sustained energy source. Very exciting. Got to put that out because we caught those bushes on fire, right? Like this is an emergency mode almost.
Yep.
And what we want is more of the kindling version that's like steady, easy to burn. Sticks, leaves, those types of things.
Yep.
Not crazy. Then we have our medium-sized sticks, bigger kindling before we get to the logs, and those are our proteins. Our proteins are a little bit more complex to break down than carbohydrates, but they don't offer any more energy than a carbohydrate does gram for gram, right? So 1 gram of carbohydrate offers 4 units of energy, and 1 gram of protein offers 4 units of energy. So it's just a little bit more of a difficult package to break down. And a lot of our proteins go to build things too. They're not always just burned.
Gotcha.
Then we catch our logs on fire, and our logs are the goal to keep that long burning sustained energy. Those are our fats, our healthy fats that keep the fire going for a long time. Gram for gram, like I said, carbohydrates and proteins offer 4 units of energy called calories per gram, and fats offer 9. That's more than twice the amount of energy per gram. So once you can open up that package, your body, you're good to go, right?
Yeah.
You need half as much, less than half as much in quantity of those fats than you do of the carbs and proteins to keep yourself stable. It's pretty good. It's nice and easy. So whenever I work with someone in my office, like Sam Sweettooth over here, we're trying to rebuild his metabolic fire. Right now, he's just pouring kindling out over and over and over. All of his meals throughout the day, very low in fat, very high in carbohydrate. And as we know, if you're on that blood sugar roller coaster, even if you have healthy fats in the picture, it's very hard for your body to access it. So that's the whole goal right there. Rebuild that metabolic fire and help to stabilize blood sugar. So how can we do that for Sam? You know some, Jeremy. What might you say would be another way to...
I know some.
You do. You know a lot. You talk to me every day. What might be a practical suggestion that you could think of, real life situation, to help Sam balance his blood sugar from the beginning of his day?
All right.
Now, wait, pause real quick. I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, that when he's waking up in the night and checking his phone and he's wide awake, that is a blood sugar crash. Anybody who wakes up in the night like that, you're wide awake, you're scrolling on your phone. It's not wake up, turn over, fall back asleep instantly. You have a blood sugar crash. Your adrenal stress hormone has risen. That's why you're awake.
I gotcha.
Right? So starting your day off with really stable blood sugar is kind of the best way that I know to keep the rest of your day going smoothly. So what might be a good breakfast option for Sam here?
We already kind of spelled out if he had talked to his buddy Swifty and probably do a very...
Well, he's quick. He has no time. He doesn't have time to cook breakfast like Swifty does.
Well, based on the crappiness of what he's eating currently, I would go for something that is super easy. And I would do something I'm doing right now, and I would just say, even if you're making your Keurig coffee, get some emulsified MCT oil, like a vanilla or cinnamon. From On It makes some really good one.
Yeah.
The Nature Force is another one. You can get all these on Amazon. And I would say just put some MCT oil in your coffee. You can even add some heavy cream to it. It's something I've been doing.
Yeah.
And I drink that in the morning, and I'm good till lunch. Now, I'm more fat adapted. I can burn fat pretty easily.
You know how to build that good metabolic fire.
But if we're talking, if you just need something quick and dirty that'll get you out of the house, I would say, maybe he's got a bullet blender that he bought in a fit of fancy when he saw an infomercial or something. You can do some things with coffee with that as well.
Yeah.
But the emulsified MCT, it goes in... It emulsifies, so it mixes into liquid very easily.
Emulsified means broken down well enough to mix with water.
Yeah.
Fat and water or oil and water don't typically mix.
Yeah.
So if you emulsify it, it blends in with the water and makes it easier to absorb as well.
So if I was Sam, that is what I would recommend and do. And then just be careful if you put too much MCT. you will shit your pants.
Yeah.
So that's
we don't want to do that. So I think that's a really good option. I like the way that you're thinking with that because he needs quick and easy. That's what Sam needs here. He does not have time in the day. He's still so dysregulated that it's not an easy task for him to get out of the house in the morning.
Yeah.
You said his crappy food. I don't want to say crappy food because food is food. It's just less optimal fuel for him. It's more kindling food.
less optimal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So I like the idea of the MCT oil. That's a really good option because MCT stands for medium chain triglyceride, which is primarily found in coconut oil and sometimes also in butter. MCTs are very easy to absorb and get into the bloodstream for energy quickly. So even if Sam has a compromised digestive system, that he can actually gain some fuel from that pretty easily, more easily than the heavy cream.
And it also, the MCT, what I've found is that it slows the uptick of caffeine.
Right.
So you don't get a huge spike of caffeine, and it diffuses that process kind of throughout your day. It's a nice clean burn, and you have access. It's a really nice feeling. I'm going to backtrack for a second. I would say as soon as Sweet Tooth Sam wakes up, is that he should have 12 ounces of water with a dash of sea salt and a twist of lemon if he can muster it.
Yeah.
And that will replenish all of
Some electrolytes.
some electrolytes, and also, I would wager a guess he's not drinking nearly enough water, and it would be good to rehydrate after he wakes up.
Yeah, I think that's a good option too.
So
Now, what we learned about Sam earlier is that he's got a lot of downtime in the evening. He sits down, he watches his Netflix and stuff from when he gets home until he goes to bed at midnight. So maybe offering him some advice of saying, okay, well, fry yourself up some bacon tonight, or fry an egg, or boil some eggs or something, or set aside your glass with salt and lemon in it before you even go to bed. Set yourself up for success the next morning. Do some of those small things. That's a great option.
yeah.
As far as breakfast options go for him, I say the MCT oil is a really good option, but I think since he's in the bar mode, I'd give him some suggestions for different types of bars.
Okay.
So,
yeah, you would know the bars more than me.
Such as a Graze bar. That's one of my favorites. It's a grass-fed organic beef bar. It's like beef jerky. That's a really nice option. It's not as calorically dense as those Nature Valley bars. I think those are somewhere around 150 calories and a lot of carbohydrate, whereas these Graze beef jerky bars are somewhere around 60 calories. So it's going to be a different, if you can burn fat and protein, it's a fantastic energy source. If you're still learning and training your body to do so, then RX bars are really good.
Yeah.
Kind bars can be a better choice. They're nuts and seeds typically with a little bit of honey and sometimes chocolate. So you've still got a decent amount of good fats and a little bit of protein going on from the nuts and seeds, but it's less starchy than a Nature Valley bar.
Right.
What's the other bar? Oh, Epic bars. People really like Epic bars. That is a blend of dried fruit, nuts and seeds, and dried meats, which I know sounds really weird, but it's pretty good.
The bacon and boar ones are really good.
Yeah, those are really good.
They have some weird flavors, but
yeah, and I'll link all this for you guys in the show notes.
Yeah.
But those types of things, I'd give him options. I'd say, okay, finish your Nature Valley bars. Don't waste them. Don't throw them out. That's fine. You can do that. But start shifting your focus to a different type of energy in the morning. And I like the Epic bars and the Kind bars for this particular scenario because they still offer some starch, some carbohydrate to the picture,
right.
And he's very much in carb burning mode. So we have to help transition his body more slowly. So you gave some really great options for someone who's already fairly fat adapted. So we could move into some of those things. And as his energy is more stable, as he feels better and better throughout the day and sleeps better throughout the night, he'll be able to say, okay, I've got 3 extra minutes in the morning to fry up an egg.
Yeah.
Or scramble some eggs. Even if he brings it with him and eats it when he gets to the office, that's still a great option.
Yeah.
Eggs are a favorite breakfast item for me because you've got a really good amount of protein in the egg white and really good, super easy to digest fats in your egg yolk. Your egg yolk also contains a nutrient called choline, which helps you to digest fats in general. So it's a great stair step for somebody who's trying to rebalance that metabolic fire.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So for lunch, some things that he can do. Now, we're going to say, Sam, just drink your coffee. Add a little bit, maybe start with a half a tablespoon of your MCT oil and keep it steady, keep it stable. See how you do with it throughout the morning. And maybe you can increase that later as you become more fat adapted and can use those fats for energy regulation. for lunch instead of, or rather, let's go before lunch for snacks, because he still is going to need some snacks. He's pretty used to eating every 2 hours and sometimes every hour and a half, right, to keep his blood sugar stabilized. What other options might he have instead of a Snickers bar that you can think of?
I'd probably steer him towards making some of your fat bombs,
Yep.
or some stuff that I used to make back in the day, which was my fake. What were those? My almond joy
bars.
My almond joy bars. Those were
Yeah.
good, because he'd have a little bit of carb in there.
Yeah.
It's got some almond flour and then some super good chocolate. But that again is something that he can make ahead of time.
True.
And then chop up and put in a
No,
lunch.
he's not handy in the kitchen. Remember, he's doing his lean cuisine for dinner because he
Right.
doesn't know how to cook.
Right. Well,
He doesn't like cooking. What could be something he could purchase that might be similar?
I don't know. Sam needs to start doing some research.
So Lara bars are a good option.
Yeah.
They're mostly dried fruit with nuts. So you've got a little bit of the fat nut component, but you also have a lot of glucose from those. And it's kind of similar to the bars that you're talking about making, but it's already available at the grocery store.
Right.
You can just grab that, and instead of having all of that extra sugar in his Snickers bar, he's got fruit-based sugar with fiber in it, and that's going to help to slow the absorption of that sugar in his bloodstream in the first place.
Gotcha.
So something like that. Or he could go to the coffee shop, Starbucks, whatever, down the street and get one of those packets of pita bread and protein, whatever they have, like their 2 hard-boiled eggs and cheese and some of those. That's a great option for him. Super easy to grab and go. We don't have to talk about ideal, fantastic health here. We're just talking about shifting the metabolism, shifting that ratio of carbs, fats, proteins to get his fire to be more stabilized.
Gotcha.
So another thing he could do too is when he's grabbing his bagel is eat half a bagel, put a whole bunch of cream cheese on it.
Full fat.
Full fat cream cheese, right? Instead of skimping and doing low fat cream cheese and mostly having starch, do half of the bagel with a whole bunch of cream cheese to kind of help keep yourself going.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Adding some heavier logs to the fire.
Adding some, not even heavier, but just some more logs in general to the fire. And if he has an energy crash, we can give him some little snack options. Like we said, he can even cut up the Lara bars and just do little bits of that along the way. Grabbing a little handful of almonds or dried fruit in general, or even not even dried fruit. Dried fruit's okay in those circumstances, but having an apple. Grabbing an apple, eating an apple, maybe putting some peanut butter on that apple.
Apple and peanut butter, solid move.
It's a solid move. It's a really great way to help get some glucose from your carbohydrate, the apple, and some good fats from the peanut butter with a little bit of protein. Often we think of peanut butter as a good source of protein, but it really is much, much higher in fat than protein. Mm-hmm. And now that fats are no longer the bad guy in our culture, we can start recognizing it for the great fuel source that it is.
Right.
So he comes home. He's feeling better throughout the day, right? He's like, wow, I feel pretty stable. I didn't do those little baby Snickers bars. I just left them. I didn't even eat them.
Yeah.
I didn't even need my 3rd cup of 4th cup of 5th cup of coffee that day. I was fine through the morning. He gets to home. He sits down. He's going to watch his movie. What other snacks might he be able to eat instead of his chips?
I don't know, man. You're shooting down all my ideal ones.
No, they're good ones.
Some other bar that I don't know about.
Now you knew about those bars. So he could have some fruit, grapes.
Yeah.
Something that's still has high glucose, so his body's going to know what to do with that energy. And maybe a little bit of trail mix. Maybe he can do, maybe he likes avocado. Avocados are easy. You just cut it in half and eat it out with a spoon,
Yeah, I always make eggs and bacon when I come home.
Eggs and bacon. So. Yeah. He has time in the afternoon. He could make some eggs and bacon.
And this turd sandwich needs to go get a side hustle or get to the gym.
He doesn't have energy to go to work out.
Yeah.
He's so tired.
Shifting that around. So
yeah.
Sam needs to go to the fight gym.
Yeah.
Start hitting some pads.
Get him in shape to get in shape. Do some push-ups. Do some squats.
Out.
Do some lunges.
Start doing some with your life, Sam. You're
building his blood sugar
loser.
so he has energy to do that. He's not a loser. He's normal. A lot of people feel like this, and they don't. It's not that they don't want to do more things. They just physically do not have the mental energy or physical energy to do so because they're riding this roller coaster constantly.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So, and he could even make things like hard-boiled eggs. They're very simple snacks that he could make for himself. And for dinner, he could, even if he wants to do a frozen dinner, okay, so maybe go get something else that's not lean cuisine, that's maybe a better nutrient profile. There's a lot of food services out there now, like The Good Kitchen, that have pre-made meals that are paleo and high fat or medium fat or whatever. You can do that. Just keep them in your freezer. They're really good to go. Pop them in the oven or the microwave or whatever, and it's super simple. So he's got a lot of options to help begin balancing that, stabilizing his blood sugar.
Yeah, and I know also like Blue Apron has some good options if you want to start learning how to cook a little bit. They'll ship stuff right to your house, and you can select like what kind of diet plan you're on and different ratios and things that you want. And that's a really nice on-ramping process for people to start learning how to cook a little bit too. Because it's all like they just give you the ingredients you need, nothing else. So.
And instructions, beautiful printed instructions. You can keep them in a binder so you can follow them. And I really like that. And then eventually, instead of having it shipped, you can go shopping for your own ingredients. So I love that because we're trying to stair-step him in the right direction so he feels better. As he feels better and has more energy, he's going to be able to do more for himself.
Right.
He's going to be able to get to the gym. And, 3 months, 4 months down the road, he's going to be a new person.
For sure.
For sure.
Because if you keep going down that path, the Sweet Tooth Sam, you'll actually turn into Sweet Tooth, which is the villain from Twisted Metal 2. Yeah. And he's a clown that drives around an ice cream truck and his head's on fire.
Oh my gosh.
And he has one of the most sinister laughs of all time because he's also a serial killer. So
yeah, I'm not so certain that eating lots of sugar will literally turn you into him, but figuratively,
his name's Sweet Tooth.
I can agree with you.
Yeah. So beware.
Yeah, because that's when you have dysregulated blood sugar like Sweet Tooth Sam. His blood glucose looks perfect on paper, but it's not telling you anything about how hard your body's working to keep that within range. If you feel tired, if you feel shaky, if you feel hangry, if you wake up in the middle of the night, if you wake up to start your day, and you don't have to be a chipper, boing, out of bed morning person, but you should be able to get up without having to hit snooze 5 times. If you are not waking up like that, any of those symptoms, you've got some blood sugar dysregulation. Your body's working really hard to keep you within range.
Yeah, and it seems like because of the food, the less ideal options, because you don't want to say bad food, so things that are going to create a high degree of dysregulation in your blood sugar, and your body has to work. It's almost like your body has to waste energy or expend energy that it could use in other areas, like mental focus or exercise or anything else.
Correct.
It's like you're burning through all your reserves just on handling what you're putting in your body.
100%, exactly. Couldn't have said it better.
It's like if you had any margin, I think that's probably why kids can handle it a little bit better. Yeah. But even they get because then the amount of dysregulation they have can get really crazy depending on how nutty your diet is with the amount of sugar you're consuming, because even that has its limits of like being young.
Right.
Right. So, but yeah, so if you are expending all this extra energy that I would assume some people don't even know that's going on.
They don't even know.
Like, don't know why they're so tired all the time. It's like, dude, your body is working so hard to try and keep you between, 80 and 100.
Yep.
And you're just tapping absolutely frying out your adrenals as well. So
you are. Your adrenals are supposed to be your emergency responders. Like I said, for when you have a real fire in your house and it's an emergency, you're running from a lion, right? You need to burn something. Get energy into your cells so you can keep running now, stat.
Yep.
But what ends up happening over time, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. Right? You've got this tiny little waste paper basket fire, or a candle is lit in your house and the fire department comes to turn it out.
Right.
We don't want that. That's way too much energy. And I also like to think about your adrenals. If your firemen have to come every day and put out a fire in your house, they're going to be exhausted when the real big fire actually comes. Yeah. They're not going to have as much energy. They're going to be depleted. The reserves are going to be gone. They're going to be so tired, as opposed to let them train, let them do what they need to do, and come only when there's a true emergency.
Right.
Going back to what you said about children, so many kids are diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, right? Like, because they're angry all the time. And I tell you the truth right now, if you can balance their blood sugar, stabilize their blood sugar regulation process, because their sugar might be within range, they'll be a new person.
Yeah.
99% of the time, maybe 95. I don't know if I can guarantee 99% of the time. A huge majority of the time, you balance their blood sugar, they're going to be so much more stable, so much more creative, so much more energy balanced. They're not going to be running off the walls and screaming and jumping down and having temper tantrums every 5 minutes. What's a kid supposed to do when they've got all those stress hormones coursing through their veins, or even not even stress hormone, extra sugar?
Right. Well, I think that's what's super, at least from my perspective, nefarious. And I know you don't like saying that foods are bad, but there's some shitty ass foods that get marketed specifically to children.
Yeah.
Like, we did a a gathering last weekend where everyone brought their favorite childhood cereal, and I hadn't had cereal in, I'm gonna guess 15 years, something like that. It's been a hot minute, yeah. And probably the last time I had cereal on a consistent basis was when I was at Grove City, and I would have Frosted Flakes. But we had Cookie Crisp, which is disgusting, Golden Grams, which I also think were gross, but then the Cinnamon Toast Crunch was the winner.
Yeah, I think everybody liked that.
Frosted Flakes, Crunch Berries, which are ridiculous, Captain Crunch Berries, and Reese's Puffs, Cocoa Puffs. And I think
provided the raw organic milk.
Raw organic milk, trying to even it out. But dude, I felt like shit afterwards. And I was like, man, I cannot believe that I used to eat this for breakfast. And it was just like, this is what, all of them have cartoon characters. Yep. Many of them back in the day had actual fully animated cartoon shows. And then they would run commercials for the shows in between. So like all the sugary cereals were targeted at children. They still are. Same with like Pop-Tarts and all this stuff. And it's like, dude, that should probably be illegal.
Well, it literally breaks my heart. And I have to keep a straight face. And I know some of my clients listening here, they're going to know I'm talking about that, but sorry. It breaks my heart and makes me want to cry when the grandmoms or the grandpops come and talk to me and they say, oh, well, I only keep the sweets in the house for the grandkids.
Right.
And I want to cry. I want to go to their house and throw it away and say, you're poisoning your grandchildren. You're causing dysregulation. You're making all these things worse. Now, I understand you want to have enjoyment and you want to have treats, but you do not have to pour gallons of sugar down children's throats to have them have a wonderful, happy, enjoyable experience with grandma and grandpa.
Yeah. It's just so no one thinks that I'm like singling anybody out or talking shit. My brother and I had a discussion last week about if we had to actually go back and eat what we used to eat as children. And my mother is one of my favorite people. She's a wonderful, lovely, wonderful human being. And but I mean, we ate like dog shit, particularly lunch and breakfast.
Make sure you eat your Pop-Tarts.
Dude. It's so just so Sweet Tooth Sam. I know I was besmirching his good name, but I was fatty chub back in the day, and it was because of eating. So my breakfast was 1 to 2 Pop-Tarts.
Okay.
With usually the cinnamon ones, and then sometimes I wouldn't eat the crust because that's gross.
Okay,
so just the
let's
icing.
break it down while you're talking us through. Let's talk about how we're building our fire.
Yeah.
So that's kindling.
Yeah. So that's it. So 1 to 2 Pop-Tarts.
Maybe some poor quality fats mixed in there, right? Some hydrogenated oils or a Crisco type thing.
I would assume there's something in there.
A lot of times your body doesn't know how to handle. So
I'm not sure what the goo is in the middle.
Sugar paste.
Sugar paste and something.
Yeah. And food coloring.
And food coloring,
so
for sure.
Chemicals and carbohydrates. And kindling.
I only ate cherry and cinnamon. I thought the strawberries were gross.
Okay. Okay.
And then the s'mores were gross. You'd have like one s'more Pop-Tart and you're like, I don't need one of those again. And then the blueberry, like, get out of here with that.
Okay.
And they had like special berry. Ugh. Or
probably
surprise berry.
All of the mixed berries.
Yeah, it was just like whatever's left over. Yeah, the icing was like blue and purple.
Okay.
Ugh.
So go on. What did you have next?
And then toaster strudels. Get out of here with that.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, Pop-Tarts. Then my lunch was packed lunch. I would have sometimes it was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Okay, so a little peanut butter, some good fats
Sometimes that would be, I switched over to like ham and cheese.
Okay.
Ham, cheese, lettuce, and
better.
then some like mustard in there, but still on like white bread.
Yeah.
And then like one of those Costco bags of chips, the little ones that you get in the big pack. Hopefully not ranch, because ugh.
Yeah.
So like Doritos or Cheetos or Fritos.
Sun Chips.
The packs we didn't have Sun Chips. They were like a different brand.
Okay,
you had to
that's
get
fine.
a different
That's totally fine.
box for that.
You can continue.
And then we had 2 Oreos.
Okay.
I had a Pepsi.
So kindling.
Soda.
A little bit of logs from that peanut butter.
And I think I had
lots of poor quality fats.
what are those fish called?
Swedish fish?
No, not the candy. Goldfish. So we had some goldfish.
Okay.
And then once a week I would get a Lunchable, which was I would get the Lunchable pizzas. So they'd be 3 of those discs of like a big cracker, and then you had to squeeze out the ragu sauce, whatever the hell that was, and then sprinkle cheese on, and I had like pre-cut pepperoni that I put on there, and make my little Lunchables pizzas.
Yeah. Which was fun. I'm sure you enjoyed that.
And then I would eat that and then continue on with my illustrious education, and then probably eating candy that the teacher was giving me out for getting really good way to train a smart fat kid to get the answer right is give him candy. Great move there.
It works.
And then I would come home, and then I would have a Little Debbie's like brownie that had like the little nuts on it. You know, it was like 2 brownies that kind of had like a crease in the middle that you could fold and break it into 2. And like usually another soda, and then I would watch my programs. Watch my stories. So yeah, watching like Transformers Beast Wars or something, and sitting on my butt watching that, and then play video games and do homework.
How about dinner?
Dinner was actually decent because my mom would cook that food,
Okay.
and it was like fairly balanced. We'd always have like salad and a good protein and good stuff, but the
So you got a good fire meal at dinner time.
and then sometimes most of the time we'd have like ice cream.
And then dessert, so more sugar.
Yeah, ice cream like way after dinner, like
So yeah.
yeah.
So that.
So,
and
but
that
anyway, just the breakfast and lunch.
Yeah, the rest of your day.
Where like I don't even know how I remained standing. That was.
Well, you're a kid. You talked about this earlier when you said I could handle, at the very beginning of the podcast, when you said I could handle these Yum Yum donuts better when I was younger.
You're like borderline Wolverine.
Well, you haven't really gotten your fire team to be exhausted yet. You know what I mean? Everyone's still fresh and young and peppy.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to keep it going. And you do need glucose. You do need energy. I'm not trying to say carbohydrates are a problem. You just need it to be in balance and in the right ratios to keep you going effectively. All what you ate was like tons and tons of carbs. Now, I want to be fair to your mom that the science of the day said fats are bad.
You're right. Right.
So she thought she was feeding you well. There were very little fats, hydrogenated oils and stuff were in it because that was, stabilizing and whatever. And they thought that was the best thing to do. Thankfully, they're realizing that that's not correct.
It's
not the whole picture.
Less than ideal.
Less than ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned this too. I don't like saying bad food because I don't want people to think emotionally about the food that way.
Right,
but there is food that is junk. There is food that is definitely it offers, let's put it this way, no nutritional value.
Yeah.
There is value emotionally if you say, I really wanted that donut, or I had that chocolate pave dessert on our honeymoon, right?
Yeah.
And drinking that champagne. Like that, you enjoyed the crap out of that.
Right.
That is totally worth it, even though there's very little nutritional value. You know what I mean? So that's where I try really hard to remove that guilt and shame component,
Right.
which is very much a part of the conversation when we talk about food being good versus bad. So nutritional value, no nutritional value. You're just trying to help build your good fire.
Yeah, and I guess my perspective on the quote unquote like good food versus bad food, my issue is not with the people eating it, it's with the people marketing it.
Yeah, that is bad. That is evil.
And that's when I say bad food, I really it really annoys me when companies are putting out these marketing campaigns that are telling people that this food is healthy for them, and they use all these buzzwords and natural and all this stuff, and it's literally straight up poison. So and that's kind of like, look, I don't mind poisoning myself, but I just want to know.
Right.
So
That's called full disclosure.
yeah, and like you can't advertise like gin as like your natural
Healthy.
source of fiber. Like you can't do that.
Great, good energy source.
Right.
Great
And
way
like
to start your
I
heart healthy because there's no fat in it.
yeah, I mean you could put fat free on that bottle
Yeah.
if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm sure
organic, fat-free gin. Like that makes it sound so much more appetizing,
yeah.
right?
and I love me some gin. So I'm just saying, but like I know when it's not like what makes up the majority of my diet.
Yeah.
So
Like that flour I told you about. It's called cauliflower.
Dude, I couldn't believe
FLOUR
that.
with a
Yeah.
dash in between. So it's plain white bread flour that has been fortified with fake vitamins and nutrients, and they mixed in some dried powdered cauliflower.
yeah.
So, and they market it as healthy.
Yeah. And
Great
that's
for pizza making, great for bread, all the things you'd use normal plain flour for,
mean.
but they call it cauliflower because of this cauliflower craze people are going through, like making cauliflower pictures or whatever.
right.
But it's terrible. It's still junk. It's still, and that's where I agree with you. That kind of marketing stuff is evil. It's not just bad. It's just evil. It's pure. It's just money making and trying to convince people that these things are healthy.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, there is It's totally okay to have indulgences and treats, especially if you're trying to like celebrate with kids. And that's what they do. Our culture does that. So if you're the oddball parent who's like, my child will never eat a piece of sugar, or you lie to them and you tell them that the pieces of frozen vegetables in the freezer is called candy. And then when the doctor says, do you eat candy every day? Or you tell the doctor, I eat candy every day. And they say, yeah, we eat candy every day. And the mom whispers to the doctor, this is actually frozen vegetables.
Yeah.
Like that happened once. I know someone who did that.
Nice.
That's not okay with me, because then you're not developing healthy relationships with your kid. It's just like lying and manipulative.
Yeah, you want to be honest.
You want to be honest, and you want to have them, you live in the real world, but you don't want to fuel them on junk all day long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those kids who are eating really real food, well balanced. That's why I talk about real food versus fake food, because a lot of those heavily processed foods are fake food, and your body doesn't really know what to do with fake food, or it acts just like that fire and you have this big explosion.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we have people that are eating a ton of food but are completely malnutrition.
Yeah,
They have malnutrition. Or they're basically malnourished.
Yep.
And it's
Wasting away.
It's a different kind of fat. It's not like that robust kind of husky fat. It's like loose because it's so because the food that a lot of people are eating is so nutrient deficient, that
nutrient poor and calorie rich,
that the body's just saying like, I need more nutrients, and they're like, you must need more food, and then you eat the same thing, and it's like, I am shocked at like how well your body can pull nutrients from food that's barely food.
Yeah.
I think that is a remarkable testament to like the human body and like the human animal. It's very, very interesting. So sorry, we kind of went on a tangent there. Is there anything you want to like?
Yeah, let's kind of bring this back here.
Back around to the blood sugar setup.
So the idea here to help balance your blood sugar is really just start making a couple, if you have any of those symptoms and you want to help improve your blood sugar regulation, start making some of those little shifts. If you know that your food is very, very carbohydrate heavy, carbohydrate rich, then just begin by even just switching the type of carbohydrate that you're eating, right? So from something that's more starchy to something that's less starchy. So if you start your day with a bowl of breakfast cereal, maybe move to oatmeal, but mix in a little bit of heavy cream, cook an egg into your oatmeal. That's a great option. You get some good fat, some good protein in a very easy to digest form. That's sort of similar to what you're doing. You're not completely changing everything. Altering, giving yourself little baby steps to move in the right direction. The other thing I can say, which I'm going to connect back, y'all, we'll have to go back and listen to episode 18 on digestion, is if you sit down and you chew your food well, no matter what your food is, you're going to be able to absorb it and balance your blood sugar more effectively because you're digesting it better. So those are kind of the big tips I have. Slow, steady steps, changes over time. If you radically change your diet quickly, I'm not a fan of that. Very few people can do that, and I ask very few people to do that. There has to be an extreme circumstance present for me to even suggest that, because you want your body to know what to do with the changes that you're asking it to make. If you've been used to building a metabolic fire out of kindling almost exclusively for 20 years, you're not going to be able to shift it overnight. You've got to take steady steps to move that, to rebuild your body's fire capacity, or else you're just going to throw it into a tailspin or feel miserable or feel horrible for, days because you're shifting your body. It's like doing a 180 in a car, right?
Right.
Flipping spin out. You have all this, rather than let's slow the car down, let's turn it gently, and then we'll go back in the right direction.
Yeah. And I will say too, like my kind of converting back over to more like fat burning, it took me a decent amount of time to get to where I am now with what I'm, what I'm at least not adhering to all the time, but the diet that I can consistently pull off, I wouldn't be able to do even just a few years ago.
Right.
So
even a year ago, maybe.
Yeah.
So let's go. I'm going to touch on this. We mentioned it. We introduced this topic earlier, and I didn't bring it back around to the ketogenic diet. I'm not going to go into details, but essentially the ketogenic diet, keto, is heavy, heavy, heavy fat, very, very little carb. Most people don't need to do that. I know it's really popular nowadays, and it's nice to do, perhaps, possibly, while supervised, a keto sort of reset, help your body to get into fat burning mode, but I just don't think that's the most effective way. What my goal for all my clients is for what you are, fat adapted. You can burn fats when you've got fats, you can burn carbs when you've got carbs, and you can easily switch between the fuel sources without having huge major energy crashes or without feeling horrible.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's the goal. be fat adapted, be able to burn all sorts of fuel in your fire, which is naturally how humans existed for years and years and years. Regardless of whether you believe the creation narrative or evolution, human beings lived on this planet for thousands of years prior to the agricultural revolution, where we created grains and heavily processed foods, right? Being fat adapted. A whole lot more fat because that was the most efficient fuel source of the time. And now that we've got all this access to these poor quality foods, these fake foods, right? They're barely foods.
Yeah.
Food-like substance, I think, is what...
faux foods.
Yeah, faux foods, right? We don't have the same digestive capacity. We don't have the ability to regulate from those kinds of things, which is why we've got this huge rise in diabetes and blood sugar, lifestyle-related diseases as a culture.
Yeah. You want to be like a lean and mean hybrid.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And it seems like, at least in I know we don't want to keep going with this too long, but it seems like there are people that are more, and a lot of it has to do with your ancestry, like where your ancestors happen to reside for a long amount of time. Some people are more fat adapted. Some people do a little bit better with carbohydrates than others. And you can, bioindividuality, and like some people can eat the exact same food as their spouse, and their blood sugar does something completely different.
Exactly.
And they can both be very healthy individuals, like Rob Wolf and his wife. They have completely different blood sugar responses to the same exact food. So it's and that's just kind of the, the roll of the dice, but you want to acknowledge your
right. And that's why you do experiments and
you
try different things and see how you feel best. There is no one diet fits all. There is no one blood sugar process that fits everybody. There are some general guidelines we can give, like here's how you build a metabolic fire. See how you feel best. That's my job with my clients, is find the right ratio for you for now, because there is no one size diet that fits all forever.
Yeah.
Right?
One ring to rule them all.
Right. Men typically can be a little bit more stable than women, to go on a little bit of a tangent, where you can kind of lock into a particular diet model that works really well for a longer period of time. Women have more hormonal fluctuations than men do in general.
Right.
So, and throughout our lifetime, we have more hormonal fluctuations. So we kind of have to be adaptive and shift our diets around to suit those needs too.
Yeah.
Because women need more fats than men in general, because we need them to build better hormones, right?
Gotcha.
Which is a totally different conversation. So I think the best thing I can say here to wrap up our conversation today is just being aware of what you're eating. That's the first and probably one of the biggest steps of this battle against blood sugar dysregulation, is become aware of what you're eating and how you feel after you eat your food. I can't tell you how many people, all my clients, they come in, I say, thank you so much for keeping food journals for me. And they're so timid. And I just, I didn't want to write that down. This was a bad day. This doesn't look like me normally. And that's okay. I really, truly am not judgmental at all. Eat cake 3 times a day. I don't care. Talk to me about how you feel afterwards. Did you feel energy dysregulation? Did you feel brain fog? Did you have to take a nap? Did your joints hurt? Right? And then we'll open the conversation, because you can seriously affect how you feel just by what you eat.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting too, just that our bringing back Sweet Tooth Sam, you look for external sources of regulation through food. Yep. Which then that's a tough, it's again, like what you said earlier, it's playing whack-a-mole with your blood sugar and food. So.
Yep. Exactly.
Cool. Well, I think we,
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good show.
Wrapped it around, put a pin in that one.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, we'll be talking to you in the outro. There you go, folks. The tales of Sweet Tooth Sam and Swifty McFarlane. I hope that was informative and useful to all of y'all.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good.
It's one of Serina's main jams.
Yeah, blood sugar. Woohoo!
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll be delving, in fact, I know we'll be delving more into some specific diets in the future and different aspects that have a lot to do with blood sugar when we get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff. So, if you guys, enjoyed that show, we'd encourage you guys to share that with your friends and to pass that around the interwebs. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and Google Play. So, and probably soon to be on a few more platforms as well.
Keep your eyes peeled.
I will keep you informed. You can follow Serena and I on Instagram at The Painter in the Pixie for show updates, and if I get around to it, adding some fun new pictures,
fun little things
to our production workflow. And all the show notes are, as always, like in all of your respective podcasting platforms, as well as on thepainterandthepixie.com.
Yep, if I mentioned anything, if Jeremy and I talked about it, we'll link it for you below.
Yep. Serina is on point with our show notes and trying to make sure all of those resources are available for y'all at your convenience. So
thanks, guys, so much for watching, listening, being a part of our conversation with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. As always, stay out of trouble, have a good one, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
See ya.
Amazing.